What's going on, everybody? This is video number 3 wearing this fucking Raiders fucking shit.
You've never looked better.
Fuck you, Bill. I'm trying to get as many of these done tonight so I don't have to do this that much. Guys, this is actually a response to Craig, the man who is responsible for putting me in this fucking position. Well, him and the fucking Broncos for not winning. So, this is a response to Craig's video that he did. I will leave his channel link and everything at the end of the video and probably in the description box below. Maybe at the end of the video, because right now my laptop's not working because the charger cord is still not here and I'm having trouble putting up end video things. Anyways, it doesn't matter. This is a response to his 21 movies you must own. These are 21 movies I feel that people must own. Now, these are actually in no particular order. They're just in the order that I came up with them in. So I'm just going to start at the top and go to the bottom, and that'll be it, okay? The very first one that's up is Star Wars. Now, I'm saying Star Wars Episode 4, New Hope, whatever. But basically any Star Wars movie will do. Even if you only own one, it'll do. Halloween. Greatest horror film ever made. Definitely should have Halloween in your collection if you are a fan of cinema. Now, this is not just going to be just my favorite movies or specific genre films. This is going to be all of cinema, movies that I think from a cinematic standpoint deserve recognition. We have The Godfather. This is a staple in any cinema lover's collection. And if you are in love with cinema the way I am, you definitely need to have this movie in your collection. The next one up is The Boondock Saints. Troy Duffy's masterpiece. I fucking love this movie. But from a cinematic standpoint, it's just so fucking awesome. There is a message. There is great fucking characters. There is great acting. This is an awesome movie. Don't worry, I'm not forgetting about comedies. You guys are like, man, he's got a bunch of dramas, some horror, some sci-fi. I'm not forgetting about comedies. They're coming. And I'm coming right now with Spaceballs. In my opinion, Mel Brooks is the greatest comedic director of all time and writer. And Spaceballs is a must-own for any comedy fan, sci-fi fan, Star Wars fan, so on and so forth. Next one up is Wizard of Oz. Yes, 1930s version, Wizard of Oz. It's cinema gold. It's a masterpiece. It's history. Without this movie, we wouldn't have half the movies we have now. I mean, this is a staple in any film lover's library. I'm telling you, it's an awesome movie. Going back to comedy now with what is, in my opinion, and in a lot of people's opinions, the greatest comedy of all time, Young Frankenstein. And this movie is just so good. Mel Brooks is so good. Gene Wilder is so good. Everything about this movie is good. There's not a single bad thing about this film. Believe me, I'm going to be reviewing it later on this year. This movie that's coming up next, some people call it the greatest film ever made. It's definitely in the conversation. Now, in my opinion, Star Wars is the greatest film ever made. But it's definitely in the conversation. And that movie is The Shawshank Redemption. This is cinema greatness right here, I'm telling you. Coming up next is one a lot of you guys aren't going to know about, I'm sure, because for whatever reason, you just don't know about it. Maybe it's because it's old, maybe it's because you don't like John Wayne, whatever. But I'm going with The Quiet Man. And it isn't so much even because of John Wayne. And believe me, John Wayne does a terrific fucking job in this movie. John Ford is one of the greatest directors and most celebrated directors in history. He is a genius. He is a visionary. And this movie was visionary. This movie was genius. It's a simple film. It's a low-key film, but it is a great film. And of course, I'm going to follow that up with something that's not simple and not low-key, and that is Pulp Fiction. Quentin Tarantino, this is a must-have. It's actually not even my favorite Tarantino film, but it is a must-have for cinema lovers. The way he puts this story together, the style that Tarantino, he showed a little bit of in Jackie Brown. He showed a little more of it in Reservoir Dogs. But what he did with Pulp Fiction, with his style and his way of filmmaking, has spawned hundreds of imitators. And nobody gets it quite like Tarantino does. We're going to move on from there to the horror comedy genre with Shaun of the Dead. To me, this is the quintessential zombie film. It is the quintessential horror comedy. And it stars two of the most comedic talent, two of the best comedic talents I've ever seen in my life. Nick Frost, Simon Pegg. And it's directed by Edgar Wright, who's a genius, and I love it. Coming up next, we have one of my favorite horror films of all time, The Omen. I think that this is a movie that is worth preserving by the Library of Congress. I hope they do, because it is worth it. The Omen is such a terrific film that has spawned, just like Pulp Fiction, this movie has spawned thousands of imitators from low budget to high budget. Coming in next is 1930s Frankenstein from Universal. To me, this movie, I'm so glad it's preserved. I'm so glad it will always be around for generations to come. And it definitely deserves it. The performances alone in this movie make this a great movie. Coming up next is the first Martin Scorsese film on this list, and actually the only one. I could have put a lot of his films on this list, guys. And I thought about it. But I don't want to overburden. That's why I just said Star Wars, and because to me, all the Star Wars films are must-owns. But I'm trying to give you some different genres, some different, franchises or movies, just different stuff. But we have Goodfellas. This, to me, is the epitome of a good gangster movie. It's going to surprise some people, but I'm going with Pretty Woman. Pretty Woman didn't introduce, but it really pushed forward the talents of Julia Roberts, who is, in my opinion, the greatest actress of all time. And it's just a really good movie. It's really good. That's why they consider it an American classic. Yes, it's a romantic comedy, so what? It's a really good fucking movie. Coming up next is a personal favorite of mine, but I also feel is a very important historical film, and that is The Great Escape. And if you are a film buff, you will love this movie. If you are an acting buff, you will love this movie. There are names in this movie that will blow your mind that you probably don't even know are in it. Richard Attenborough, Donald Pleasance, Steve McQueen. I mean, there are such big names in this film. Charles Bronson's in this fucking movie. Okay, I mean, it's an amazing film. And it recreates a true story, albeit, of course, with some liberties taken. You always have to, for, entertainment facts. But some of one of the greatest and most daring escapes of World War II. Coming in next is a Western. It's one of my favorite Westerns. And it is Tombstone. This is, in my opinion, the quintessential modern Western.
Which Tombstone? It's been made a lot of times.
The only one that matters.
The one with Val Kilmer?
The one with Val Kilmer and
Thank you.
Kurt Russell, and yeah, the only one that matters.
I agree.
Coming in next is another Western. It's also a John Wayne film, True Grit. This is the movie that won John Wayne his Best Acting Oscar, even though he should have won it 1,000,000 times over. And I fucking think that this movie, from a cinematic standpoint, is absolutely amazing. From a storytelling standpoint, it's amazing. And even from an acting standpoint, the acting done in this movie is so good. And I was so blown away by it, even as a kid when I watched it for the first time, that I knew there was something special in these people. Coming up next may be, in my opinion, the greatest action adventure that's not Star Wars ever put to film. And it is, yes, another George Lucas and Steven Spielberg property. We got Raiders of the Lost Ark. You cannot mention action adventure without mentioning Raiders of the Lost Ark. You can't mention Steven Spielberg and George Lucas without mentioning Raiders of the Lost Ark. I mean, two of the greatest filmmakers of all time combined to make one of the greatest movies of all time. This one's gonna really make some people go, really? What the fuck? What are you thinking, Brad? But hey, remember, this is my opinion on my list. You ain't gotta agree with it. But if you haven't seen this movie, I dare say give it a shot because you might be surprised. From the sweeping, majestic camera angles to the beautiful structures of downtown Salzburg. Okay? We have The Sound of Music. It is a musical. It is a Rodgers and Hammerstein film. It's a
got
classic
Nazis.
film. It has Nazis. It is a masterpiece of a movie. It is an awesome movie. I love this movie. I even like the music, and I'm not ashamed to admit that. I don't give a shit. This is one of... Shut up, Bill.
Sound of music.
Trying to make a video here, Bill. Shut up. No. This was one of my mother's favorite films, and as I've said before, I have no such thing as... I don't believe in guilty pleasures. I like a lot of stuff. It's one of my favorite films of all time. I own a copy of it, and it definitely needs to be in your collection. You might not like musicals. You may think, but just watch it from a cinematic standpoint. You'll see what I mean. Finally, guys, the 21st film on this list. And after what I just talked about, you're going to be like, wow, what the fuck? The final movie on this list, guys, Clerks. Say what you want. I don't care. This movie was groundbreaking. It still breaks ground, in my opinion. It was filmed in black and white, which was awesome. It has some of the best dialogue ever written, whether you like it or not, because it's dirty and cursing. It has a storyline that, while at times it just seems like it's pointless, there's actually subtleties in there that will break your heart if you really pay attention. Clerks is a masterpiece of a film. It is why Kevin Smith is one of my favorite filmmakers. And I dare say that you need to own that film. Guys, this is Bronco Juggalo's list of the 21 films you should have in your film collection. Craig, I really appreciate you doing this because I thought it was a cool idea. I hope you don't mind me, throwing one back at you. I didn't think you would. So this is mine. Guys, peace.